So here is my plan for my Arpilleras. I am going to I've chosen some fabric for my base color. This part's going to be like my ground. And then I'm going to have another color for my sky. I happen to have chosen some of the pieces that were cut too small, so I am going to kind of be doing a little bit of overlapping here with the brown part covering up part of the sky, and I'm going to hide those grommets on the under part of another piece of fabric. So I'm going to be putting it together kind of like this, looking at like how far up does this go. And for people with like correctly sized fabric, this will probably be overlapping, and then you would cut that size once you kind of figure out how much of this distance is supposed to be the one fabric and how much of it is supposed to be the other. But in my case, because I am going to be kind of using just part of this, I am going to make sure I've got the blue side up here because I want that for my sky. I'm going to be overlapping like this and then putting glue dots and then trimming the rest. So since this one is about the size that I want to see, I'm going to go ahead and keep this. But I'm going to change this line here to make my hills. So that'll be kind of my first step, is that I'm going to be using Sharpie or chalk to draw on my fabric. So I can either draw with Sharpie or I can use the chalk. And the chalk actually is a bit better because it shows up on dark fabrics as well as light fabrics. And I can erase it by just wiping it off with my fan if I need to. So lining this up with my paper, then I can kind of see where this is meant to be. So if I look here, there's my curve for my mountain. And since this is wider than my paper, I'm just going to extend it. I'm going to have a slightly larger artwork than my plan, and that's fine. So like that. So there's the line that I'm going to cut. Try to keep it flat on the table as much as possible. Lifting your fabric up makes it harder to cut. Now that I have my hilly line kind of mapped out here, I can go ahead and attach it to my sky piece. So this piece is going to be my sky, and I'm going to figure out how large I want my overall artwork to be. Probably about there is good. So I'm going to flip this over, and on the wrong side of the fabric, I'm going to put dots of my tacky glue. So this glue, remember, we open and we always keep upside down. We put dots along the very edge of the fabric. Set it in the cradle when you're not using it. Turn it over. Line up those edges. Make sure you've got the right kind of vertical length. I had a little something underneath there. There we go. Okay. But there it goes. I've got my first kind of two layers, my far away background and my hilly midground. So for this next part, I want to make my foreground ground here. That's this part here. And so I can take a piece of fabric. Now this one happens to have a slice in it, but that makes it perfect for this part because it doesn't have to be very big. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to see kind of where that curve happens. So we're keeping pretty much in line. I'm going to just line it up with the top edge here, and I'm just going to record that curve coming down. Short little lines with that chalk to help it mark. And then figuring out again the end of the paper, that's where I'm going to kind of stop this. When you're gluing the foreground on, do make sure you're kind of putting the glue around the outside edges and a little bit up here, but don't get too close to this edge because you may be wanting to kind of tuck things under there a little bit. So it's helpful if you can pull that up a little bit if you need to later. So go ahead and line that up. If you're finding any of your fabric pieces aren't sticking, you may need a little bit more glue to help it kind of stay put. It is helpful to kind of have it in a couple of spots